hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.
Welcome again to Street Talk. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki, and on Street Talk, what we do, we talk about things happening here in Michigan, the U.S., and abroad. We deal with political, social, and economics. Now, joining me tonight,
Dennis Burnside.
Charles Thomas.
Paget Maynard.
we got a whole lot to cover, but one of the things that that's been bugging me for the last while is that, again, today, in Pittsburgh, they have a young man, Farron, 17 years old. We just keep seeing our young people getting shot down by these policemen.
Yeah, there's a law that was codified by the Supreme Court decades ago that said the police do not have, because municipalities all over the country had rules that said if you're in the process of a felony and you run away from our officer, he can shoot you down. This went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said no. Unless you are presenting a physical danger, threat to that cop's life, he does not have the right to shoot you as you run away from the crime. No, it doesn't matter if it's a felony or a misdemeanor or suspicion of jaywalking. Mm-hmm. They don't have the right to shoot you. Mm-hmm. Now, this young man was 17 years old. After the police stopped his car, for whatever reason, he panicked and ran. Mm-hmm. Maybe he ran because he's afraid of cops shooting him. Mm-hmm. But he was shot 3 times in the back, and it turns out that the officer who shot him had been on the force for 3 hours. I want you to think about that. 3 hours,
3 bullets.
Not days, not weeks, not months, because any of those would be insufficient time to give you enough experience to go out on the street with a loaded weapon like that. 3 hours. And then we read further, he had been suspended, reprimanded, and finally fired by the University of Pittsburgh Police Department because he had a history of inappropriate and violent behavior. Mm-hmm. So the Pittsburgh City Police look at this dubious application and decide that's just the kind of guy that we want on the force. Mm-hmm. And now we have a 17-year-old whose funeral is today as a result. Mm-hmm.
And then we can go back and just look, look at.
Well, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Tamir Rice.
Yeah.
Tamir Rice was a 7-year-old boy playing with a BB gun in a park. I mean, if you're going to play with the BB gun, where's a more appropriate place than to play in a park? Now, you can have a debate about whether a 7-year-old should have any type of gun, BB gun notwithstanding. Mm-hmm. But he wasn't breaking any laws. He wasn't doing anything unusual. A cop that had only been on the job for a couple months pulled up, and within 3 seconds, there we go with that number again, unloaded on Tamir Rice and killed him instantly. We find out later that that particular policeman had been fired from a suburban fire department because of inappropriate, violent, and just wild behavior. So we see this pattern repeated over and over again. Philando Castile, licensed to carry a concealed weapon, fully complying with the officer, politely tells the officer, I want to emphasize that, politely says to the officer, I have a permit to carry loaded weapon, and I am carrying. And you know, he sees gun, black man goes crazy and shoots him.
Yeah.
And threatens to shoot the girlfriend, and she's filming this thing saying, "You just killed my boyfriend." We could go on down the list. You know,
The baby was in the back seat.
yeah, baby's in the back seat, and if it isn't that, they're asphyxiating black young men. You know, Richard Pryor had a joke about that, about choking black men to death, and that was back in the 70s. The only difference between what's going on now in the teens of the 2000s and what's happened in the past is everyone carries a video camera. Everybody has a video camera. And we have witnesses now that are empiric, that can't be refuted.
Right.
Because before, a cop would come up with the cover story, his boy would agree, and that would carry the weight. It all the way through the court system, under oath. Now, he didn't kill that man. That man hung himself with his arms tied behind his back. He committed suicide. Okay, that's the evidence, because you're an officer. You're honorable.
Right. Yeah.
You were saying, Patty?
I wonder who tied his hands behind his back
Well, that happens all the
whilst he
time.
was hanging himself.
Yeah, it happens all the time, man. It happened in the Kennedy assassination, King. You start going down the evidence trail, people start killing themselves in creative ways. Yeah.
It's really. We could go to the boy in South Carolina that was shot in the back. The guy was shot
As
in the
he
back.
ran away.
Yeah.
Right. And they planted a weapon. Nearby. They had one not too long ago where they planted a weapon, but there were so many people out there filming that they planted the weapon several feet away and tried to say, well, he dropped it on the way, but somebody filmed him planting the gun. So this is as American as cherry pie, to quote H. Rap Brown. And I think the idea that these are rare events, that there's some type of mistake, there's some type of very rare occurrence, is belied by the evidence. This is routine. It happens all the time.
And you know, the thing is that probably in the last 5-7 years, I don't know how many shootings, but I believe only 3 of these people who did the shooting, these policemen did the shooting, are in jail. The one, I think it's 3. I think I was counting them last year, but I don't, it's not many of them.
Yeah, it's very rare for them to be arrested. And if arrested, it's very rare for them to go to trial. And if they go to trial, it's very rare for them to be convicted. I think there's only one conviction that I know of where an unarmed black young man or young woman was murdered by a police officer, and the officer was convicted of murder. There's only one case that I know of.
Yeah.
But you have to bear in mind too, like you mentioned earlier, when no witnesses are there that can say anything, put anything in the report. I can give you a little thing. When I was working, I had a meeting with management. They decide, they call it a formal counseling. So they're going to ask me questions. They asked me a question. I gave an answer. This one doing the recording wrote something completely different from what I said. I said, that's not what I said. Well, this is my paper. I write what I want. And I said, well, then you can turn around and use that against me. Well, of course, I put a stop right there. We never went any further with the meeting. But police have been known to falsify reports, and then their partners will corroborate with them. And you look stupid because it's you against 2, 3, 4 of them. Same thing going on today, except for
line. Yeah, the thin
cameras.
blue line. Yeah.
Well, but the thing is now they'll say, oh, well, that the camera didn't get all because something happened before. Now they use that, They'll use that.
Well, why didn't they put on their camera then? They're supposed to have a camera on them.
Yeah, they'll cut it
So
off.
why you coming telling me the camera didn't get everything when you should have had it on? As a matter of fact, the moment you stop your car to get out there, you should have turned it on.
This old lady. Remember this old lady?
Yeah, she was an elderly woman dragged out of her car, beaten up.
And the guy, it was something happened with the camera then. It didn't show because it didn't show all of it.
Yeah, they manipulate the cameras,
Yeah.
but even in cases where the camera documents from A to Z, it's been very difficult to get a conviction for murder, and that's what these cases are. You're looking at people who are unarmed, who did not provoke anything to escalate the violence that came out of that cop. To that level, no. You know, maybe a reprimand, maybe a warning, maybe even an arrest if they're mouthing off too much. But to kill them? I mean, it's just unheard of, and you know, it's a long history in this country that's going on. Again, the difference is now everybody carries a camera in their pocket, and we're documenting more and more of these cases. I mean, you look at when George Zimmerman killed the young brother down in Florida, who was wearing a hoodie. What was his name?
Trayvon Martin.
Trayvon Martin. The prosecutor came in there, and you know, we've seen subsequently since the case was adjudicated that George Zimmerman is a man who has violent tendencies. He's pulled guns on multiple people.
Yes.
He's threatened 2 girlfriends' lives. He bragged online that he knows how to deal with black folks. I mean, he's happy that he killed Trayvon Martin. But at the time of the trial, the prosecutor overcharged him purposely. She charged him with first-degree murder, and then presented scant evidence to talk about how this was premeditated in his mind, that he was going out and hunting for somebody, and he had made up his mind he was going to kill somebody. We know that wasn't the case. We know he was predisposed to. We know he's a white supremacist. We know we have an itchy trigger finger, and we knew he saw a young black man and he thought this was an opportunity. We know all that. That's not premeditated murder. That's second, third degree murder. And had she charged him appropriately and tried him appropriately and used evidence that was readily available, we'd have got a conviction. So it almost looked, and for people in Florida, and you're faced with this stand your ground law, for people down there, they're saying, you know, they got you going both ways, because here's a man who obviously murdered someone with no justification. He uses stand your ground law, and a sympathetic prosecutor does everything in her power to make sure that he's exonerated. Around the very same time, you had a young black woman, a mother of 3, I forget her name, I should remember her name, and she had a violent husband who made a habit of beating her up in front of her children. Well, she had enough. She had a legally obtained weapon with a license, stand your ground. He came to beat her again. She took the gun out, told him to stand back, and he took another step. She fired over his head into the garage ceiling. They convicted her and sent her to prison. Separating her from her children, which is another thing that this society likes to do to minorities, is separate you from your children. So it's not anything that's unusual. We've had it going on since the gun was invented and white folks discovered black folks. It's just that now we have these cameras.
You were saying, Badger?
Dennis just bring a nice transition there, because taking the parent from the kids. What we have going on here right now, go down to the border, Texas. How many hundreds, as a matter of fact, thousands of kids
It's approaching 3,000.
all over the place now. No idea where their parents are. The parents have no idea where they are, whether they're still alive or not. What happens if one of these kids gets seriously sick? You take them to the doctor. Technically, you can't even do it because you don't have. Well, they're with the department, so the department could do that. But what history do you have?
Well,
when are you going to reunite these families?
Forget the speculation about what if they get sick. They are being made sick because the trauma that's levied on these children.
I know.
From the separation of the parents is going to scar them for life. So we
I
don't
was
have to
thinking of
speculate.
the physical ailment there just now.
Oh, it's
But
going to be
then,
physical.
Yes, you're right. The trauma they're going through.
Well, it's the same trauma that we went through during slavery.
Absolutely.
These kids, it's been less than a month. We had to endure for 400 years.
All right.
And wasn't nobody there for us.
Same thing was done to the Native Americans. There's a long history of Native American children being taken from their parents, to be civilized,
Yeah, yeah.
where they're sent to schools where they're taught English and have their hair cut and
Yeah.
wear Western clothes
Yeah.
and denied
To
their
be white.
culture
Yeah.
and told that they come from an inferior culture
yeah.
and they're being civilized in a way.
And God is a white man.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
long history of this, and so it makes me, I don't wonder, it makes me conclude, but it should make other people wonder, why would they be so anxious to separate these children from their parents? And then you just look back a few weeks and you can see that this isn't happenstance. This was a plan.
Oh yeah.
This was a
yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
You know, you had Sessions talking about it. You had Stephen Miller,
A year
who's a
ago.
Nazi.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had
Donald Trump.
Trump himself. I mean, these people know. If it's not based on some type of study with Trump, we know that's not the case. He didn't study, but intuitively, they seem to have this fascination about breaking down melanated people and their family structure, destroying their culture, destroying individual
Yeah.
lives. It
But it
is
comes
heartless
back
and
to
cruel. When
one
those
thing.
tapes first came out, and they taped those children crying for their mommies and poppies,
Right.
and I couldn't listen
At
to it.
such
I
a
had to
young
mute
age,
it.
yeah.
It brought tears to my
Yeah,
eyes.
yeah.
man.
It was
Divide
the
and
cruelness of
it was a
conquer.
trigger.
That's the whole
Yeah,
thing
Because
here.
you read about it, and some of our ancestors a couple of generations
Yes.
ago experienced it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to me, that's what they're doing. They know the trauma that slavery caused us, and they know that these things are triggers that they're doing to these young boys by shooting them. So if they can keep us angry and mad at one another, they got us subdued.
Subdued, yeah.
So until we stop falling for that trick and get some economics going, they're going to continue to do it.
Yeah. You know, and I don't know today, but they're not letting any cameras or anything in where these people are.
Look,
You know,
Of course not.
the media couldn't get that done.
no,
Congress people
right.
went there. They
Yep.
would not allow them
Yep.
in.
Yeah.
You're going to send somebody back and say, well, call us next week.
I saw
We want
one
to know
where
what's going on now. Well, call us next week.
How can you stop a congressman?
I saw one a U.S. senator 2 weeks ago went to one when it first happened.
Yep.
He's a U.S. senator, and Porky came out in his little renter uniform, all aggressive, and then he was told, "Well, this is a senator," and he kind of knew from his fourth grade education, 'cause that's probably as much as he paid attention, that this is somebody important. I just can't dog him out. So, you're a senator. What's your name? How you spell that? S-E-N. He couldn't spell senator. Finally got the guy's name, asked him where he worked. He's a senator, bruh. He's a U.S. senator. He had to ask all these rudimentary questions because he did not know
Protocol.
what this man's title really represented. And even then, he still stood by and said, well, this private business owner taking taxpayer money, misusing U.S. constitutional guarantees, and using presidential policy, still can't let a U.S. senator see what's going on. Our taxpayer money going on. That's the arrogance of it.
Yeah.
And if people don't see this for the fascism that it is, they don't want to see it. They just don't want to see it.
No.
And then Lionel coming out saying how, in Germany and in Europe, everything gone up. No,
Well,
he was lying as usual.
oh yeah. I mean, that's all they do, lie, man. You know, this man has lied more than all the other presidents put together. You know.
Yeah.
They
Yeah. I
can't
mean,
touch him.
he's that's all he can do, lie.
But that's all they've ever done. They lied about everything
Yeah.
to get this
yeah,
country. They
yeah.
stole it.
Oh yeah.
You know, they stole the land from the Indians. They,
Yeah.
they turned history to favor them. They changed the Bible to incorporate themselves as being the top dog in the Bible. You just can't.
Well, they wrote the Bible.
Yeah.
They created the Bible.
Yeah.
So of course they're gonna make it themselves.
So you know, if somehow if Million hadn't seen these young kids crying and going on, they'd have been, they fine, they doing well. Ain't nothing wrong with them. They doing, and this old stupid lady on Fox.
That's all they had.
She said they was
so many of them.
said, yeah,
Right,
said,
which one?
Said they was on say that was vacation to them.
Yeah, it was like a sleepover
Yeah,
camp.
Laura,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Laura, what?
yeah, whatever her name is. She's
think that's
stupid.
it. Yeah.
Whatever.
Man, look. You know Rachel Maddow on the Rachel Maddow show.
Right, yeah.
I always consider her a real tough woman. I mean, not in a bad way,
Yeah.
but
She
I
knows.
saw her broke down.
She couldn't read it.
Couldn't even finish reading the statement
Yep.
because of how it hit her.
Yeah.
I saw other people couldn't really say what they have to say. They teared up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know,
Man.
there's that part of humanity that makes me optimistic because, you know, as Rachel Maddow couldn't even read the news release when they talked about, because what they were saying is not only do we have these children separated from their parents, we just found out, she's reading this announcement that we have this apparatus called tender age camps
Yes.
for babies.
Yes.
They're taking breastfeeding
Yeah.
babies
Yes.
away from
Yeah.
their mothers, and she couldn't finish reading
Yeah.
that. So, you know, somebody like Laura Ingraham will say, well, this is like summer camp
Yeah.
for these kids.
Yeah.
Summer
And it's
camp,
like,
my
you
foot.
heartless,
Yeah,
heartless.
bit. Oh,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
heartless
Maybe
witch.
she
Yeah.
should be put in
Yeah.
the summer camp
Yeah.
and see how she enjoys it
Yeah.
in the cage.
You know. But
It's cold, it's callous, it's evil.
But it's not just one or two people.
Oh,
it's the
no.
whole gang of them. And they keep coming out lying.
Well, you know.
Well, there's a
see
market
what-
for them, though, Patrick.
Yeah.
They, you know, from that demographic from 50 to 90, white male and female, Fox News dominates that
Yeah.
because that's the get off my lawn demographic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They want things to look like it did when Wally and Beaver Cleaver run
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
You know, the doors unlocked
Yeah,
and
40s and
no
50s,
brown or
yeah.
black people anywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah.
Yeah, white
fantasy.
picket fence.
Yeah, that's
Right,
what
yeah,
that's their focus on. That's not the way the world
Unfortunate.
is, never has been,
How
and never will be.
unfortunate.
No.
But as I was saying earlier, man, it does make me optimistic when I read about the incident where the Trump functionaries in a Mexican restaurant of all places,
Yes, man, I
Yeah.
was gonna
and they
say that.
ran her out of
Yeah.
there. You
Yeah.
just had Honey Boo Boo, Sarah Honey, what's her name, Huckabee.
Yeah.
They ran her out. The owner of the restaurant
Chased her out.
quietly
Yeah.
walked. No, he didn't chase her. He or she walked up to Sarah Huckabee and said, "I'd prefer not to have your business. I'd really rather you not be in my place of business. I don't like what you do. It ain't your policy. It's your incessant lying in the name of this man.
Yeah.
I'd rather not have you in my restaurant." We see more and more of this going on. So there are good people out there,
Oh, yeah.
melanated and unmelanated.
Oh,
But
yeah.
the idea that this is U.S. policy, and you
comes
look
to
at our
leadership.
history, it tells you something about who we are as a country.
Yeah.
But then to add insult to injury, this Lionel keep telling people, well, it's the law.
Yeah.
And the Democrats could change it, but wait a second. The Democrats cannot bring any bill to the floor.
Well,
It got to be
Process,
the
protocol.
the speaker in the House or in the Senate, the leader of the majority. So how you blaming the minority?
well, but see, that's, you know, everything that's wrong, that goes wrong, he's blaming
the
Democrats.
It's the
He's
Dems.
He's trying to get in November. He's trying to get Republicans elected.
Reelected.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so everything he's blaming, you know, Democrats.
Hey, you remember
Human
the other
Rifle
day?
Association.
Yeah.
You remember the other day I asked you guys if you read that book, Animal Farm?
Oh yeah.
Well, if you read Animal Farm again, you'll see after they got rid of Jones off the farm, that Napoleon got these dogs, chased Snowball off the farm, and every minute, every day, he twisted something. And if you dreamt something, it was Snowball. Everything was Snowball. It's the same thing we're having here now. Everything is the Democrats.
Oh, yeah,
Well, Trump, well, you want them to infest. And look at the word, infest.
Yeah.
They are not looking like us. So if they come here, they're infesting.
Oh, yeah.
So they're bringing some kind
Yeah.
of germ.
Yeah.
And let's talk about
Yeah.
the people that are coming and why. This is from a Central American triangle. You've got Honduras, El Salvador, and
Yep.
Guatemala,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And El Salvador is the murder capital of the world.
Sure is.
El Salvador
Yep.
and Honduras are right behind them.
Yep.
Endemic violence. You can't send your children to school.
No.
Right.
You can't safely sleep at night. It's a great, big, huge war zone over drugs. That's the critical.
Yep.
That's a critical cross
Cartel.
point from where they grow it in South America and they ship it to North America. This market. How did it get that way? Well, let's go back to Ronnie Reagan.
Yep.
Let's go back to the arms for hostages.
Yes.
And
The
so they
contract.
create this environment. They upset a civilization that's been around for thousands of years, living peacefully.
yeah.
And now you have the wreckage of that. And babies and women are just trying to survive by coming here and not crossing the border illegally.
Right.
Let's keep that in mind. There's crossing points, and then there's this long border. By law, it doesn't matter if you go to a so-called crossing point or you cross or a checkpoint or you go over here in the border. If you step across and you say, "I'm asking for asylum, political
Yes.
asylum for these reasons," you're supposed to be granted a
Yeah.
hearing.
Yeah.
Well,
And so rather than do that,
doesn't count.
they stopped on they put the checkpoint on a bridge and made it so they couldn't physically step onto U.S. territory to legally ask for asylum. So and they were only keeping it open for a few hours a day, so people were backing up, sleeping on the bridge. So rather than sleep on the bridge, they go to the easiest access point, cross, encounter authorities and say, "I'd like to apply for political asylum. I've marched all the way from Central America up through Mexico, endured all kind of hardships. I'm desperate. Give me your kid. You're going to jail."
Yeah.
What kind of heartless bastards
Well,
are these people?
That's the same thing you was talking about. They create the bucket, and then they put the crabs in the bucket.
And then ask you to act like
Right.
you,
And
yeah,
then
why
they make
you
laws
think?
to keep you in that
Yeah.
bucket.
Yeah.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, "You are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God."